The history of the guitar is written by those who've bent its strings, reshaped its sound, and electrified audiences with sheer audacity. These 20 guitarists didn't just play the instrument, they transformed it, inspiring generations and cementing their places in music history. From raw Delta blues to cosmic rock, their contributions ripple through every chord we hear today. Stevie Ray Vaughan burst onto the scene in the early 1980s like a lightning strike.
Well, of course it felt good, but the main thing is that the music is the music, you know. It's just that I like to do the best music that I can, and that's where my heart lies, is in the blues, rhythm and blues, and rock and roll.
With his cowboy hat, swagger, and battered Stratocaster, he reintroduced the world to the raw power of the blues at a time when the charts were dominated by synthpop and hair metal. His Texas flood of tone, deep, rich, and soulful, brought old-school shuffles like Pride and Joy roaring into the mainstream. Stevie was one of the reasons I wanted a Stratocaster, said John Mayer. His tone, which I've never been able to get down, was just so big and bold and bright. Gary Clark Jr., another disciple, put it simply, if you watch his videos, you can tell he's giving you everything he's got. Vaughan's untimely death in 1990 cut short a career that was just getting started, but his influence still reverberates. Freddie King, the Texas Cannonball, was an unstoppable force whose sharp-edged tone and fiery technique revolutionized electric blues. His instrumental tracks, like Hide Away and The Stumble, became essential study material for British guitarists like Eric Clapton, Peter Green, and Jeff Beck. Freddie was the guy who opened the door for me, Clapton once said, citing I Love the Woman as a pivotal moment in his guitar education. Freddie's live performances were legendary, with his signature metal banjo picks producing a tone so searing it could slice through any crowd. Derek Trucks described it perfectly. Steel on steel is an unforgettable sound, but it's got to be in the right hands, and Freddie's hands were the right hands. Few guitarists have redefined the instrument's role in a band the way Tom Morello did with Rage Against the Machine. Morello's riffs weren't just riffs, they were weapons of sonic revolution. Tracks like Bulls on Parade and Killing in the Name showcased his ability to turn effects pedals and feedback into tools of pure creativity. I wanted to make the guitar sound like it had never sounded before, Morello said, and his innovative approach delivered. Using techniques like toggle switch stuttering and scratching, Morello expanded the guitar's vocabulary. Even now, his bold experimentation continues to influence new generations of players. Before Mother Maybelle Carter, the guitar in country music was mostly an accompaniment, a rhythm instrument. But with her Carter scratch picking style, she changed everything. By playing melody, rhythm, and bass simultaneously, Maybelle turned the guitar into a lead instrument, as heard on Wildwood Flower and Bury Me Under the Weeping Willow. When I started playing, I didn't have nobody to play with me, she explained, so that's how I developed this style. Her innovation laid the groundwork for modern country and folk music, inspiring countless musicians from Johnny Cash to Bob Dylan. Robert Johnson's 29 recorded songs have inspired more myths than some entire genres. Was he really a bluesman who sold his soul at a crossroads for his otherworldly talent? Perhaps. But what's certain is that Johnson's Crossroad Blues and Traveling Riverside Blues defined the Delta Blues and, by extension, modern rock. Bob Dylan once described hearing Johnson's recordings as a revelation. The stabbing sounds from the guitar could almost break a window. Eric Clapton called Johnson the most important blues musician who ever lived. His finger-picking technique, his use of slide, and his haunting voice make him an enduring icon. Keith Richards' entire career is a love letter to the art of the riff. From the snarling opening of I Can't Get No Satisfaction to the shimmering menace of Gimme Shelter.
What you doing uptown?
Richards has crafted more iconic riffs than most guitarists could dream of. His signature open G tuning adds a loose, swaggering quality to his playing, making it instantly recognizable. A great riff just appears at your fingertips, Richards once said. His ability to make simplicity sound monumental has cemented his status as one of rock's ultimate rhythm players. Prince was a true musical polymath, but it's his guitar work that often left audiences slack-jawed. Tracks like Purple Rain and When Doves Cry showcased his ability to meld screaming rock solos with funky rhythm playing. His performances were as flamboyant as they were masterful, whether wielding his custom-designed cloud guitar or melting faces with solos that seemed to come from another planet.
Everything you do is success.
It's only because I'm black that people compare me to Hendrix, Prince once said, dismissing the label. If they really listened, they'd hear more Santana in my playing. Heavy metal as we know it wouldn't exist without Tony Iommi. After an industrial accident cost him 2 fingertips, Iommi adapted his playing style by using lighter strings and detuning his guitar, creating the crushingly heavy sound of Black Sabbath. Tracks like Iron Man and Paranoid are monuments to his ingenuity and resilience. In those days you had to make your sound, Iommi said, and make it he did, dark, sludgy, and unforgettable. Jimmy Nolan didn't play fast or loud, but his rhythmic brilliance redefined funk guitar. As a cornerstone of James Brown's band, Nolan's choppy chicken scratch style on tracks like Papa's Got a Brand New Bag and Cold Sweat gave funk its groove. I used to just try to play and keep my rhythm going as much like a drum as I possibly could, Nolan explained. His work laid the foundation for generations of funk and R&B players, from Nile Rodgers to Prince. Santana's playing is instantly recognizable, a fluid mix of Latin rhythms, blues phrasing, and rock power. Tracks like Black Magic Woman and Oye Como Va are sonic journeys imbued with spirituality and fire. As hard as I tried, I always sounded like me, Santana said, and that unmistakable voice on the guitar has made him a legend. Duane Allman's slide guitar wasn't just a technique, it was an emotional language that spoke directly to the soul. Whether it was the searing bottleneck wails on Statesboro Blues with the Allman Brothers Band, or his ethereal contributions to Derek and the Dominoes' Layla, Allman played like he was racing against time, and sadly, he was. Eric Clapton described Allman as the musical brother I never had, a testament to their creative bond. Tracks like Whipping Post showcased his genius for improvisation, blending blues, jazz, and rock into something transcendent. Duane's career ended tragically in 1971, but his influence on Southern rock and slide guitar remains immeasurable. Joni Mitchell's relationship with the guitar was anything but conventional. After childhood polio weakened her left hand, she devised a series of alternate tunings that unlocked a rich orchestral sound.
And they charged all the people $1.50 just to see 'em.
I wanted to play the guitar like an orchestra, she once said, and songs like Coyote and For the Roses proved her success. Mitchell's guitar work is hypnotic, complex, and yet deeply personal.
Free the man in Paris, I'm from the Confederate
Her 1976 album Hajira is a masterclass in her unique style, where her chords shimmer like sunlight on water. Bob Dylan famously watched her play and marveled at her otherworldly tunings, which inspired countless musicians, from Sonic Youth to Led Zeppelin. No one made the guitar sing like B.B. King. His vibrato-laden solos and single-note melodies on tracks like The Thrill Is Gone set the gold standard for blues guitar. Before BB, everyone played the guitar like it was an acoustic, said Buddy Guy. King turned it into a voice, a weeping, shouting, pleading voice that could break your heart or lift your spirits. Lucille, his beloved Gibson, was more than a guitar. It was an extension of his soul. King's live album, Live at the Regal, remains one of the most electrifying performances ever recorded, a testament to his ability to make every note count. Nile Rodgers didn't just play guitar, he created the DNA of modern pop and funk. His sharp, syncopated rhythms on Le Freak, Good Times, and I'm Coming Out became the backbone of an entire genre. If you've ever tapped your foot to disco, funk, or pop, you've likely been grooving to Rodgers' unmistakable Strat. I wanted to play like Hendrix, Rodgers once said, but instead, I ended up with this funky thing. That funky thing powered hits for Diana Ross, David Bowie, Daft Punk, and more. Even Johnny Marr of the Smiths called Rodgers his greatest influence, a nod to the way Nile transformed rhythm guitar into a lead voice. Before Chuck Berry, Elvis, or anyone else plugged in a guitar and let it rip, there was Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Her groundbreaking fusion of gospel and electric blues on tracks like Strange Things Happening Every Day laid the foundation for rock and roll itself. In the 1940s, she was already shredding on her electric guitar while belting out gospel tunes with a voice that could shake rafters. Bob Dylan called her a force of nature, and her influence is written all over the work of Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, and beyond. Watching her perform Didn't It Rain is to witness history in motion, a woman wielding her guitar like a preacher's staff, commanding the world to listen. Jeff Beck was the kind of guitarist who made other guitarists say, "How did he do that?" From his early days with the Yardbirds to his solo career, Beck continually pushed the boundaries of what the guitar could achieve. Tracks like "'Cause We've Ended as Lovers" are practically operatic in their emotional depth, with Beck coaxing out notes that seem to hover between laughter and tears. "I've never made the big time, mercifully," Beck once joked, but his innovations in tone, phrasing, and dynamics made him a giant among his peers. Whether playing rock, jazz fusion, or something entirely his own, Beck was always a step ahead. Eddie Van Halen didn't just play the guitar, he reinvented it. His finger-tapping technique on Eruption sent shockwaves through the guitar world, inspiring a million imitators but no equals. Yet Van Halen wasn't just about flashy solos. He was a brilliant songwriter who blended technical mastery with pop sensibility on tracks like Jump and Ain't Talkin' About Love. "With Eddie, everyone was riveted," said Tom Morello, "because everyone knew we were in the presence of our generation's Mozart." Beyond the stage, Eddie was an innovator, designing his own guitars and pushing the limits of what the instrument could do. If Led Zeppelin were the hammer of the gods, Jimmy Page was the one wielding it. His riffs on Whole Lotta Love and Black Dog are some of the most recognizable in rock history. While the finger-picked intro to Stairway to Heaven remains a rite of passage for every aspiring guitarist. But Page wasn't just a riff machine. He was a producer and arranger who layered his guitar parts to create monumental soundscapes. He had this vision to transcend what the guitar could do, said Joe Perry. Page's mastery of both the instrument and the studio set him apart as one of rock's true architects. Chuck Berry didn't just influence rock and roll, he practically invented it. The opening riff to Johnny B. Good is the Rosetta Stone of rock guitar, blending blues and country into something electrifyingly new. His duck walk and showmanship became the blueprint for rock stardom. Keith Richards put it simply, Chuck is the granddaddy of us all. Tracks like Roll Over Beethoven and Maybelline didn't just change music, they changed culture, proving that the electric guitar was here to stay. Jimi Hendrix didn't just redefine the guitar, he redefined music itself. From the wailing feedback of Purple Haze to the psychedelic glory of Voodoo Child's Slight Return, Hendrix's playing was nothing short of revolutionary. The wah-wah pedal doesn't have notes, Hendrix once said, but it has feelings. And feelings were what Hendrix delivered, in spades. Whether playing with his teeth, setting his guitar on fire, or simply letting his Stratocaster speak for itself, Hendrix made the guitar a vessel for cosmic creativity. Tom Morello said it best. Jimmy exploded our idea of what music could be. Decades later, his legacy is as vital as ever.